Sauce here. This is a video lesson for Python programming, string formatting. These video lessons are intended to be paused so that you can practice. I'm going to begin writing a program. I have saved it as stringformatting.py. We're going to talk about how to format strings, strings being a data type that we often print. Strings can be combined. We have a fancy word for combining strings we call concatenate. So this is, strings can be concatenated. I'll provide an example of that. I'm going to use the print function so that we can see the output of adding the string hello and the string world. We don't need to do this. We could make it one string hello world, but this is an example. I'm going to save my program and run. And what I can see is that it indeed added the strings. But it added the strings literally without a space. There was no space in either of the strings that I used, so a space didn't show up when I printed the sum of them. We could add individual letters. Python does not distinguish between a string of length 1. Some languages call a string of length 1 a character, which is its own data type. In Python, it's simply a string, though it may have a length 1 just to be one letter. But we can concatenate single letter strings, and it would look like this. When we do, it puts those strings together to make the word how. Another example. I could also concatenate strings, in this case 3 strings of length 1 with a comma. It's going to do the same as if I had used a plus sign. And in fact, I can combine commas and plus signs as well as quotes in order to concatenate a string. And I can see the result, ARE and the word you. Notice that the use of the quotes added spaces in front of the string that got added. The space between the A, R, and E and the output did not exist in the strings that I added together with a comma. So commas behave slightly differently than pluses. Another example, I'm going to use a double quote because I want to use an apostrophe as an apostrophe. And I'm going to add these strings together with a comma and observe that the output, I'm good, does have a space, which in this case, I took advantage of the comma to concatenate to produce the 2 words I'm and good that we can easily read because they're spaced, even though there is not a space in either the I'm or the good string. But we like to read things that are well organized. So the methods that we use in order to print things for the users, we want to use methods that allow what the user sees to look good or look well formatted. Provide some more examples. I'm going to print the string I have friends. Eric with a comma inside the string, then a comma to concatenate, and then start another string, Michael. I'm going to start the string, add a comma inside the string, John and Graham. Several different choices that were kind of subtle to see in this code were made. Let's take a look at the output with an eye towards how well formatted it looks for the user. The output that I'm looking at is I have friends, Eric, Michael, 2 Terrys, John, and Graham. Notice that the last 2 lines of these 4 have a space in front of them. The Eric and Michael line does not. But I have commas after the Eric, I have a space between the comma and Michael, and I have a space between John and Graham. This looks good, it could look a little better. The difference in the spaces is this. I put a space inside the print function's parameters, but not inside the quotes that make the first string Eric. This here is empty space, and the Python programming language uses space in clever ways in order to avoid using more symbols that typical programming languages or other programming languages use in order to write the syntax. Python uses space in a very unique way, and in this case, this space right here is meaningless. It can be ignored and probably should be deleted. If I wanted to have a space that was a part of the string so that things are indented, or the last 3 lines are indented together, then I need to add that space as a part of the string, not inside the print function that is not within the quotes. Notice that the use of the comma here gave me the space that I wanted before the string Michael. And I didn't use a comma, I just used 1 string in this last line, so I added the space in order to make it look nice. I'm going to save and run and observe my block of text now. I have friends, and then indented these 3 lines. Eric, Michael, 2 Terrys, John, and Graham. These 6 men are part of the British comedy troupe Monty Python, which this programming language is named after. We can include a special character to make a line break instead of multiple print statements. So in the examples above, I've used 4 print statements, 4 separate commands to print out those lines. I could do it a different way. In this case, I'm going to use 1 print statement. I'm going to take advantage of the work that I've already done by copying and pasting. I'm copying the 4 lines that I wanted to print and putting them in order in the same print statement. I'm going to get rid of this comma simply by putting a space there instead. This is not going to execute because I still have these quotes. I haven't concatenated, I simply have 4 strings in a row. This is not proper syntax. But what I want to accomplish here is having 4 lines, 4 separate lines that are printed. So I'm going to use a special character, which is a /n. We could call it a backslash or a forwarded slash. Society has ceased to care which is which. So you can see the symbol that's printed. I personally call this a backslash. But we use the n afterwards, and what the n stands for is new line. The /n is the symbol for pressing an enter inside the string. In other words, there's going to be a new line, a line break when it gets to this symbol. These 2 quotes here, I'm going to replace with the /n, and these 2 quotes with the /n as well. So I have only 2 quotes at the beginning and end. This is a single string, and it contains 3 uses of this special character. Let's see what happens when I run it. I get the same output because we can see the line breaks. Discover for yourself what it would look like if you took the /n line breaks out. Line length in code is something to pay attention to. We have an example of a fairly long line of code in this last print example. As a general rule, no more than 80 characters to make your code easy to read. I have a comment that is kind of like a measurement stick. Where this 10 is placed is the location at which there are 10 characters from the start of the file or from the left side of the file. This 80 over here at the end of the 0 shows the 80th character. So my window that I have open is exactly 80 characters wide. We can read the character position that we are at. In the bottom right, there are two numbers here, LN25 and COL53, which stands for line number 25, column number 53. And it's the column number that is the position away from the left that we're at. So the cursor is at the 53rd position, and between the 1 and the 0 is at column 10 or position 10. Sometimes I include a comment that looks exactly like this so that I can observe if my line of code is getting too long. And again, the reason for that is because we want to write code that is easy to read by others. And to do that, we keep our lines as short as possible. More advanced string formatting helps place information inside of strings. I'm going to show you some examples of a very useful way to write well-structured strings that are more sophisticated. My name is Sauce. I am 47 years old. It's true that I love programming. This is a print line, and it does as we expect. It prints that sentence. I could write this line in a different way. I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to consider that there are three things that I want to replace with symbols that then I will supply the value of at the end of the string. Let me show you what I mean by that. My name, Sauce, I'm going to replace with the symbol %s. The %s stands for a data type string. My age, 47, I'm going to replace with a %i. The %i is a symbol that stands for a data type integer. The true, I'm going to replace with a %r. %r is a symbol that stands for a Boolean data type. I'm going to supply the values for those symbols at the end of the string. So I have my cursor at the end of the string, and I'm going to type a % and then parentheses, and inside I'm going to put the string, sauce, the integer 47, and the Boolean value true. I need to close my string in order to format the others correctly. And we can see that I have a line of code that's gone beyond 80 characters. We want to try to avoid that, but in this case, we're going to have a line that is over that. This line of code will print the very same thing if I've got the syntax right. And if I run my program, I can verify that. But it's printed the same thing in a very different way. What's happened is that it printed this line, but when it got to this special symbol for %s, it put the first thing in this list at the end of the string that I've supplied. And the first thing in that list is a string. It's in quotes, and it's the string sauce. So the %s was replaced by that value sauce. The %I is the second thing. It was replaced by the second thing in the list at the end of the string. There's an integer there, 47. There needs to be. If expected an integer with the %I and got something different, there might be an error. But the %I got replaced by the 47, and the %r got replaced by the Boolean value true. %b, by the way, stands for binary. So it's the %r that stands for the Boolean data type. And when it made those replacements, it printed out the result, which is identical to the one above it. Well, why would we do that? Because this line of code now is dynamic, meaning we could print a completely different line with a different name and a different age and maybe a different value for loving programming simply by changing the information that the symbols represent. I could change the sauce to another name Bim. I could put another integer in, and I can change this Boolean value. And simply by making those changes, the string formatting is the same, but the values that replace the symbols have changed so that the output is different. This is especially helpful when the information that we put into strings are variables, and we can change the values of those variables. More on variables in the near future. Notice that the data types and position must match in this string formatting. String formatting allows what you print to be dynamic. And as I said, this is great to use with variables, which we're going to study soon. To finish up, those familiar with Python will know that there are two more ways to format strings, and the ways in order to format strings in a more sophisticated manner will be the subject of a future lesson. Now you. Write a formatted string that includes at least one of these three data types: string, integer, Boolean, and the special character /n. Use the string a few times with different values. Make the output look well organized. You can see that these two lines of code as an example will help you be able to do that.